And this one coming up is not going to stop at all either, because I don't know if y'all have realized, but we're about to watch Gecko's Wet Thigh go through. And anybody that's been around in the community playing Spellbreak for a while, you probably have heard of Delicious Wetfish.
Yes.
He's a really, really great creator, really great player. He comes into my lobbies a lot and destroys people a lot. And he knows how to use that conduit class really, really well. So we'll see if it comes through and gets them a dub here. Definitely a class that we're seeing utilized quite often. And I think this particular map will be one where it's going to allow this gauntlet and this class to really, really shine.
Oh yeah, 100%. And as you were saying, the caliber of players in these teams right here is just absolutely insane. We've got UMG tournament champions. We've got ranked top 5 for the ranks leaderboards in Spellbreak. We've got literally any competitive environment that you can think of. We've got players that have either won or placed very, very highly. And so this match is going to be insane.
100%. And speaking of this match, looks like we're getting into it already. Seeing Delicious Wetfish here running the awesome Brillstone Automaton outfit. I am personally a big fan of that. I know the community's kind of given Brilly its own name, but we always love to see Brilly, or yes, as any people may also know, Sir Brillium. We love to see it. But again, we're seeing the lightning and the fire combo, which is really, really interesting. The conduit is the main class, just picking up some scrolls at the minute, eats a bit of a snipe, but is determined for the scroll.
They definitely made him pay for that scroll there.
Yeah, he was going in for early, and I was literally in my head was thinking, they're kind of handshaking here. They're getting their loot, and it was 6-6, and they wasn't really invading. And then literally as that thought went into my head, he got sniped in the side. I was like, wait, maybe they're not shaking hands so much. Definitely now that we're jumping into it, we're going to see a little bit of invading coming in, as Wetfish is going to be forced to try to survive it. But the toxic slaps coming through is just going to be too much damage output for him to come survive. That nice little lightning sorcery at the last second almost came out in time, but it was just a little bit late. Spring Step getting him away from his opponent, but not far enough, as he will go back up into the buying phase, giving that red team a little bit of an extra phase, or looks extra lead, 13-11 here. And Wetfish is going to be, I don't know if y'all realize or noticed that Wetfish's screen might look a little bit different than the other players. And that's because this player is shrinking his UI elements down smaller than you would see in a lot of the other players. So it's going to give him more of the screen just for the gameplay. And I think that's a really cool move. You only need to see what you need to see, and you need to see the players more. So I think that's really cool to see. And we'll see if he's going to be able to make this conduit pop off in this map that kind of is pretty open and kind of lends itself to this line of sight gauntlet.
Exactly, that's it. I'm really excited to see what the opposing team do this game as well. I know on the enemy team at the minute, we're up against Dumb Ways to Die. So Chicken Burrito, Sketch, and Mardy, an absolutely ruthless team. I can highly attest to Chicken Burrito and Mardy. I play with those a lot, and they're incredible, incredible players. Such a super awesome team, especially Chicken Burrito being only 14. So to see just such pro level, top level players, absolutely incredible. And this game is one to be excited for.
It really is. I think Burrito has to be one of our youngest participants in this tournament, and it's incredible the amount of skill that someone so young can possess. Like playing against him, I don't think there's a single class that doesn't terrify me. He cannot. There is nothing he plays that I can go into a game against him and be like, "Oh, I've won this easy."
Yeah,
wow. Yeah. I need to familiarize myself with Chicken Burrito more often. I'm not super familiar with him, but
I'd recommend it.
High praise.
Also, a shout out to Chicken Burrito for helping with the editing on our intro video as well, alongside AJ Reddy. Super awesome stuff. Chicken Burrito is a big up and coming content creator and pro player. So super awesome to see him participating today, and their team doing so well.
Bright future for sure. 14 years old, participating in these tournaments, making it to these finals already almost, and coming through. And honestly, without Chicken Burrito's input on our promo video, I don't think it would have turned out as well as it did. So huge shout out to those players, especially coming in at the young age for sure. But going to see exactly what's happening here in these lobbies. And I do want to point out one more thing before we get back into the combat side of the things. Thunder Thigh is going to be our our protege, our Metafy student. It's actually going to be Kyrie Caitlin's student. So keep a good close eye on Thunder Thigh. I'm sure Kyrie Caitlin will be, making sure that he's, crossing all of his T's and dotting all of his I's right. But definitely going to be interesting as we move on in to see exactly what's happening in these lobbies. Pushing on in, we see Delicious Wetfish on the conduit doing his thing, but no exiles just yet. 28-30, and it seems like the score is pretty close to each other. We do have some combat, but I think there's some players that are still trying to get the last little bit of talent scrolls read up, trying to get their build activated to its full potential, and trying to avoid some of these fights. But as I say that, Delicious Wetfish travels into the outlands of the map along with Thunder Thigh, and really going to put in the hot pursuit on this 1v2 situation, as Chicken Burrito will get caught out there and eventually will go down to the onslaught from those two players.
And this is what I was saying earlier. They seem to have got it, man. They've managed to get to a point where they've staggered the respawn. So now they've got two people that can easily just pick up the person that's just come in to support, when their cavalry is just way too far away to be able to respond.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very, very good point. And this just goes to show, what the Metafy coaching can do for you. See Thunder Thigh playing incredibly well here. Again, pushing with Delicious Wetfish, making sure that they're nailing down those exiles as quickly as possible. Like Sloss says, using their positioning and respawn timers to their advantage. It's really, really awesome stuff to see.
For sure. And also, like, it's just great teamwork that you see happening. A lot of situations where you get in this stagger position we were talking about earlier, where having that strong lead voice to say, hey, we're getting staggered, we need to reset, drop over here, let's fix this, instead of just letting it snowball out of control, is so important. And I'm sure that if Kyrie Caitlin is the one behind the coaching for Thunder, that voice is definitely present on Gecko's Wet Thigh. I'm curious about Dumb Ways to Die, Chicken Beardo with a younger age. I'm not sure. I'm wondering who's going to be that voice on their team. Younger age doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be the lead voice, but sometimes you have to work a little bit harder to get that attention that you need. So we'll see if it comes through for Dumb Ways to Die. But Gecko's Wet Thigh definitely showing some really good communication, some really great teamwork, and it's winning games. You're playing smarter, not harder, and you're opening up situations and opportunities to capitalize on that just is safe for your team, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to what you were saying earlier, the team composition between Dumb Ways to Die is going to be really, I think, extra special, because they've got cross-continental team. They've got two NA East members playing on their home server right now, while Mardi from the EU is probably dealing with at least 40 ping. So, and it's not a lot, but it's going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference. So seeing how they can overcome that as a team, and how they are overcoming that with a lead of 4 now, that it's I can't wait to see how they do actually overcome that, and if they can even do it to progress on to the next round.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's one huge thing that I have seen with Chicken Burrito as well. I know, Timmy, you were saying about, having that leading voice to help push the team forward and make sure that their positioning and timings are all correct. The amazing thing that I also see with Chicken Burrito is that very, very on point with his teammates. It's almost like some communications aren't needed. Like him and Mardi are on the same wavelength, and it brings this incredible level of gameplay where you're watching. It's like, how did they know to do that? That's crazy. But these players have been playing for so long together, and they know their classes and their role within their team so well that it causes this almost unified gameplay, which is evidently working very well for them. Although it does look like Gecko's Wet Thigh is pulling it forward a little bit. Only 1 point between it now, so we'll have to see how it goes down.
These really are going to be some close games. Like as we said earlier, the caliber of player in these lobbies right now is next to none. Astounding. There are very few that could rival this game, and I can't call a winner.
Oh,
I don't know. Going into the whole tournament, I thought Dumb Ways to Die, my favorite. I genuinely think they're probably still going to take it. But now watching it, I don't think it's that easy to call by a long shot.
No, it could be anybody's game, and they have really spent so much time in private scrimmages and stuff that they're going to be coming through and surprising a lot of us. But honestly, the more that we talk about the importance of the teamwork and the comms, it's kind of like an ad for Medify, to be honest with you, because if you see this gameplay, and like I said earlier, and you think you're a good Spellbreak player, take it from people that have been there and had that experience. It's a totally different situation when you actually get into one of these tournaments. So if you are good at Spellbreak, you enjoy it at a high level, and you think that you have what it takes, I strongly urge you guys to get in the Discord, sign up for a tournament, get in one of our events, test yourself. And if you do need a little bit of extra help, we have coaches, we have Medify, and we'll bring you guys up to that level so you can enjoy Spellbreak at this level. But speaking of levels, I think Delicious Wetfish may have ascended to a new one. I'm not sure. 5 Exiles picked up real quick, and he is just beaming every player in his crosshair right now. Beautiful spring step over that firewall. Does close the gap, but unfortunately gets punished for it big time as he gets a little bit too close for comfort, and the heat is too much to handle.
100%. He paid the big price to pushing that Stone Shaper there.
It is indeed getting hot in here. But yeah, see Wetfish coming back down. Sees a scroll, nice easy nab for his last level of Vampiric, which again is going to help massively. I know Dav spoke earlier about how strong of a talent Vampiric is. So I assume we're going to be seeing it very prominently throughout the tournament from lots of different players. But the beams are just coming out from Delicious Wetfish using... although he's on the low ground, still getting a couple of pops off on the high ground, which is super cool stuff to see. Using this lightning strike to kind of cover himself from any enemy fire, as well as gaining that extra rune charge. The great thing with Conduit.
Definitely. And he's taken the high ground here, and it's just so... It's an imperative thing to know about your class is what ground you want to take and at what points. There are points with Conduit where you want to be up close in people's faces. There are points where you want to be far away, just pinging people, making sure that they don't forget that you're there. It just adds that pressure that the rest of your team can then capitalize on. And by having that higher ground, you've also got the viewpoint to be able to give impeccable call-outs to the rest of your team.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I think it's really cool to see TDMs on these maps. And this particular map right here, you notice they're kind of going off into areas that you don't normally see if you were playing something like Dominion. And I think there's a lot of really cool landscape and structures and some tall towers where, you know, you obviously see a lot of these players coming through to capitalize on that elevation and really take into the areas of the map that you don't really get to see. And that's really cool to see TDM showing off the map design a little bit more than what you may have seen in the past. But man, oh man, 79 to 80, literally 1 point distance as we edge closer and closer to 120. 5 kills or 5 exiles still down for our player on the Conduit class as Delicious Wetfish pushes on in. And you see here that he's dropped away from the action quite a bit. He seems pretty focused on this tower. I'm not sure if there's any opponents up here for him to get to, but he definitely wants to be on top of this elevated spot. It seems like this is the place where he wants to be. And it seems like these fights keep happening in this area. And from the looks of it, it's definitely Gecko's Wet Thigh that is forcing that, because they're kind of sticking to this tower, using this elevation, and they're kind of creating this battle around this tower, and they're kind of at the top of it. So I think that's ideal here for sure.
Just taking a peek at Fish's talents there, I think I found out why he keeps going back to that tower. That tracking from that height is going to be game changing.
I was just going to say, it's like you were saying to me, it's not very often we see that tower in play, you know, during Dominion games and your regular kind of, like I said, Dominion gameplay. So to see all of these vantage points, and then Sloth, perfect example there, you know, using that tracking to make sure that his teammates are able to see where the enemies are, and staying on that high ground is going to be the best way to just be able to poke with that lightning gauntlet here and there, get that tracking off, and hope that his two maybe closer range teammates can help secure the exiles.
Well, it just goes to show there that the team leader doesn't necessarily have to be right in the midst of all the fighting with their two teammates. If they're in control, or as in control as Delicious Wetfish is, all they've got to do is just call out from a certain position, keep poking for that little bit of tick damage and to keep that tracking on there, and just let the rest of the team do the work. And I think that shows a real leader is when you can delegate and give jobs to the rest of your team. Like, okay, I've tracked this guy, he has half shield, now I need you to finish him off.
That's 100%. And that is the hugest distinction, in my opinion, that makes the difference between a good leader and a great leader, is knowing when to delegate. You have players that are good, you have players that know how to lead, but some players want to do everything themselves because they can't trust or rely on other players or teammates. So when you fully trust a teammate and you know that you can rely on them and that you can delegate something to them and they'll get it done, that's when your team synergy goes to the next level. That's when your communication goes to the next level. And that's what we see here happening a lot. And I'm so glad you guys pointed out the tracking. We talked a bit about it before, and you see it coming through here. One
they turned that around.
96 as the wet thigh comes through at the last second.
What a one game
point. Jeez Louise.
Threading the needle there. Absolutely.
And look how much damage output from Gecko there.
I was just about to say as well, the damage output from Delicious, you could tell he was just poking people with that lightning gauntlet, them cheeky little tickles that will rack your damage up very, very quickly. But such an awesome game because we saw Dumb Ways to Die in the lead for maybe the first half of the game.
Yeah.
And then Gecko's Wet 5, they switched something, and there we go with that 1 point lead. Absolutely awesome stuff to see. Such a fun game.
Such a small lead, but it makes such a big difference going into the next thing. Their mentals are going to be all over the place. Delicious Wet Fish's team on a big high from that win. Marty's team may be taking it a bit down. If they can't pull themselves out of that, I don't know. But if they don't, then that's going to affect them big time into the next game because I know a few of their players are real mentality players.
Yeah,
I come away from that match completely impressed with Wet Fish's team. That team synergy. That roles, the composition, the way that they played their role, and they made sure that they did not stray from the responsibilities. They were behind. They had a little bit of a struggle, but they believed in their plan and they followed through with it. And in the end, it worked out. And the really cool thing there is we saw, I believe it was, who was a Gecko? I'm not sure. Had 0 exiles, but had the second highest amount of damage. So that just goes to show you, it's not about who has the most exiles. It is a team effort as long as you're pumping that damage out. And it's all about the team's score in the end. So play your role. Don't feel the need to be the hero. And you're going to get things done. And we saw that happen just then. Huge game for Wet Thigh.
I'm so glad you brought that up again, Timmy, because Gecko, they're just demonstrating completely how kill stealing just isn't a thing. It's called teamwork, and that team there just above and beyond with their teamwork, because you had, as you say, Gecko with 2,400 damage and not a single actual finished exile, and still a load of assists because he was being a great support player. And this is the thing, it's not all about the
support player in Spellbreak.
Yes, imagine. You'd love to see it.
I know that makes you quite happy, Aldi. You've always been a support player in your games, haven't you?
Always, every single time I'm the support. But no, yeah, it's really awesome stuff to see, and the damage difference as well. You know, Delicious Wet Fish being at the top there with 5 exiles and 2,900 damage. We saw only 500 damage difference between them two players. One with 0 exiles, one with 5. So as you say, the teamwork is just absolutely impeccable. Such a great thing. Yeah, again, we got to keep mentioning it, but obviously Gecko's Wet Thigh has Thunder Thigh on their team. Obviously trained through Metafy, an awesome thing to see. You can see that is paying off for that team. They're working really well together. They've got a plan. They've taken action on it, and it is evidently working very, very well.
100%. And the really important thing that I wanted that you all touched on about the tracking is, not only are you getting the information to your teammates, not only are you non-verbally communicating a target to focus, but in maps like that, where you find yourself going to areas that you don't normally go, maybe even areas of the map that you don't even know exist, that tracking will be invaluable. You'll be able to know where they go, no matter where they go. And it's almost like it's filling out the rest of the map that you're not familiar with. You know, that player with tracking, as they travel through the area that you're not familiar with, you're going to get a ping of what's going on in that location, and you're going to be able to track them down and hopefully take care of them. So big play, and you don't get to see those big brain plays or that support role coming in nearly as much in your just average Spellbreak lobbies.
That's it, and it just builds on what you were saying earlier, Timmy, about how these game modes we do here at SGC can be so much different from your regular gameplay. And come and try it out, see how you get on, see whether these new map spots and stuff like that something you can work with. Maybe coming and playing these game modes, you find you pop off more than you do in Battle Royale. That was something that I found personally when I was playing. When we started doing the TDMs, I far outperform myself in the TDM setting than I do the BR setting, and it's just so much fun to have the amount of variety within the game, the community having fun with it, and everyone just being here for it. It's super awesome stuff, and I cannot wait to get into this second game to see what happens.
Yeah, 100%. It is a completely different ball game, and that's the thing with all the different game modes that we've got. We've got obviously the TDMs happening now. We've got the BR tournament coming up next. We've got Walush's kill race happening as well. But even without just actual tournaments, we're going to be hosting those community fun events as well. And I've hosted 1v1s on my channel several hundred times, and there are players that come into my chat and they're like, oh, I'm not really very good at BR and I don't know how well I'll do in these, but I'll come in and I'll give it a go. And then they just surprise themselves with how well they do and the names of the players that they are able to take down, whether it be by beginner's luck or whether it be by the fact that they're just better suited to that game mode. I couldn't tell you, but I'd like to think that the different game modes suit different people a lot more. And I think this is a testament to that, how people have been practicing for this and have really put in the effort to get their team comms and team synergy on point.
That's 100% right. And that's, you guys join the Discord, !SGC. It is the place for all Spellbreak stuff, competitive, casual, artistic, whatever you want. It is the place to be. You're not only going to be connected to players that you can play with, not only going to be connected to coaches that can teach you, you're going to be connected to content creators. You're going to be connected to subcategories. You're going to be connected to other events from other organizations. Like, it is the place to be if you want to play Spellbreak and you want to play it at its highest level or just enjoy it in every way possible. And the big thing is about this specific event, which I'm super excited about, is we got prize money. We got sponsors. We got stuff to give out to our winners. We'll be coming through with that $500 sponsored by Metafy to give out to those top 3 teams. It's going to be split 3 ways. The first place will be leaving with $300 Renos. That's the big USD 300. And their choice of 3 crack shots or priestess codes. That's going to be that $100 chapter pass, and it's going to come with a ton of gold. I think it's 13,500 gold and some exclusive outfits that you can't get anymore. I got it, LB. I got it.
Yes, we do well.
We're proud of you, Timmy.
Place is going to be 150, and also the codes, and then our third place will be 50 with 3 codes. We're going to jump on into our next game, as it looks like
Let's go.
Gecko's Wet Thigh versus Dumb Ways to Die is about to go down, and it rhymes, so that means it's got to be right.
Oh, yeah, 100%. This was always made to be from the get-go. This was made to be, wasn't it? A pair that rhymes like this.
Exactly. It does look like we might need a little bit of a restart there, but it shouldn't take too much longer to get back into it. And so I'm sure, like I say, looking at both of these teams, one thing that I didn't realize as well is Delicious Wet Fish and Gecko both being UMG tournament champions and Neighbor Jake League point leaders as well. Super cool stuff, seeing people from other competitive sides of Spellbreak come over and show their skill here and doing it extraordinarily well. Super fun to see and really interesting. Like I say, I don't think I could put it down to who I think could win these games. I think we're just here for it, and we're here to see what